Now, the African Democratic Congress, the ADC, has suspended its national vice chairman of South-South, Dr. Usani Uguru Usani, with immediate effect. In a statement released and signed by the ADC's State Publicity Secretary, James Otudo, the party said Usani's recent conduct was inconsistent with the provisions of the ADC constitution. The statement noted that Usani's suspension will remain in effect pending the outcome of a formal investigation by the relevant party organs. The committee also raises issues regarding the appointment of Ms. Jackie Wyas as a Deputy National Publicity Secretary, expressing dissatisfaction over her performance. They urge the national leadership to replace her with a competent, credible, and media-savvy individual from Cross River State.
Well, for more on this, we're joined in the studio live by the man in the eye of the storm, the former Minister of Niger Delta Affairs, and also the recently suspended Vice Chairman of the ADC South-South region, Dr. Usani Uguru. You're welcome live on Arise News, Daybreak.
My pleasure to be with you.
Now, your suspension had come on the trail of a whole lot of allegations from anti-party activities, from unconstitutional conduct which borders on gross misconduct, to anti-party activities and insubordination. These are very grievous and serious allegations coming on your trail. How would you respond to this?
Indeed, I didn't even think you were going to talk about this. I expected, or I still expect anyway, that we'll be talking about the issues of governance, which actually are at the front stage of Nigerian system. However, I am conscious of the fact that when discordant tones of misguided convocation are found in a system, such anomalies will take place. First, from the language of the so-called suspension, when somebody accuses a superior officer of insubordination by a lesser placed officer in the system, how does it count in the context of the meaning of that lexicon? To say a superior officer is insubordinating a junior officer doesn't make sense at all. However, no such suspension exists because everything done is in absolute abuse of the provisions of the constitution of the party ADC. Given that the constitution states no arm of the party takes a disciplinary action below the level of official arm of the party or organ of the party where the person operates. I belong to the NWC. So how does a state executive committee penalize me? It's a contravention of the Constitution.
Okay, can you tell us more about this suspension? Because I think there's not enough clarity and detail on it. Can you probably talk to us about how this has impacted your role within the ADC and the broader South-South region?
For God's sake, before you talk about a personality vis-a-vis activities in any system, there is need to have the conduct or the antecedents of such a personality. The underlying consideration in this situation should be something like this. Consider, when political migration is informed by people who move from wilderness to where there is butter and bread or bread and butter, it shows that people move for either stomach infrastructure or for relevance or for being important or for continually remaining essential to the benefits of their wishes. But when you find somebody who moves from the position of advantage to a place of uncertainty, then such is guided by actions of conscience. And so my politics is actually determined and directed by what I believe as service, which is basically sacrificial. I was in government. I left the APC when the president who appointed me minister was still in office. Couldn't I have negotiated for anything to come by from the position of minister? So talking about the suspension that does not exist from people who are obviously rather traitors to the party or to the system is unfortunate. More so, the very people you're talking about have embarrassed the party, ADC, because the publicity given to this non-existent so-called disciplinary action is global, giving the impression that the ADC is not a stable institution that can take care of its own affairs in the face of nothing whatsoever. So there is nothing to talk about in anything called suspension. There's no suspension anywhere.
So, but you know, politics is local.
Definitely. And that is why those who sponsor them are troubled. Because when my name comes into focus in the politics of Cross River State, there is need for panic.
So what steps would you be taking to clear your name with all that has been happening?
My name is not immersed in any controversy whatsoever. You see, when they say a common cliche is storm in a teacup, that's exactly what's happening. People want to gain relevance by dragging me into that type of discussion. Since it was meted out, of course, I refuse to comment on it because there's nothing in it. Absolutely nothing. It is just the agenda. Of course, you know, having been a founding factor in the APC, one-time state chairman, I had experienced this type of situation. Merger that brought about the APC. Here it is coalition. The common denominator is that people are coming from different arms of the political domain to get together. And I was state chairman of APC. And I midwifed the process seamlessly, and there was no rancor. But here, the people have a focus. That Usani has come out to work with Leah Limoke, who is perceived to be an enemy of Usani, is a dangerous thing for the opposition of the ADC. And so the doctrine or the conspiracy is that if they don't set us apart by making sure Usani is a focus to target so he does not concentrate on the affairs of the party, then they will be able to deal with the rest of the ADC as a remnant of what would have been a wholesome fabric.
Though we know that the National Working Committee come out to say that the State Working Committee, the Cross River State Working Committee, has no constitutional backing to suspend you. But now your legitimacy and your stronghold is in question because you are representing a region on the party. That's the basis of you being the national vice chairman of the South-South of the ADC in the first instance. So how do you intend to sustain your legitimacy in the party
lawyers
in terms of representation?
Lawyers will tell you something cannot stand on nothing.
Absolutely.
So if there's no suspension, how is my legitimacy questioned? It is common sense.
So now that you say your legitimacy is not in question, let's look at the elections that are upcoming and talk to us a bit. Give us your comments. What is your assessment of the current state, the preparedness of Nigerians?
Well, thank you very much. Incidentally, we perceive politics to be the beginning and end of an election. But for me, politics is deeper, greater than that. Politics for me is something fundamental that should be played by people who are honest, sincere, and sacrificial. The reason is because it is the channel of ascension to places of public service in governance. In which case, a statement of policy for 1 minute can affect the generation for 50 years to come.
Absolutely.
Therefore, if the sanctity of character is not introduced into politics, you continue to have the base system that we have. So, preparing for election, we would rather ask you, the public, from the angle of the ADC, are you prepared for election? Where election means choosing from the mindset of probity, of character, of manifesto, of assessment of individuals who are to be involved. So far, you know that Nigeria is witnessing every index of governance failure. Taxation, insecurity, high rate of unemployment, high rate of inflation, border failures. Indeed, for current governance globally, you cannot manage a sovereign economy without deep knowledge of global indices in the entire world. And so having a limited classical understanding of a model you are using, which is only sovereign bound, will obviously take you into chaos in national welfare of governance. So we are ready. You Nigerians, are you ready? It behoves on you to be ready to choose right.
Okay, now let's look at the internal structure of the party now. Isn't ADC, the African Democratic Congress, facing a membership and identity crisis, with many of your leaders yet to formally resign their membership of their former party and still running the affairs of the ADC?
Well, I tell you, everybody in ADC, from the leadership to the followership, has a focus. Every political strategy must not be the same. However, assuming what you have said is in context and is the standard, it means we are learning fast from the current so-called former leading parties of the PDP and the APC.
No, but your party also expressed this concern and gave an ultimatum which has elapsed, saying that they should renounce membership of the former party.
That is correct.
Many of them
and I can tell you what that means. That means the ADC is set to create a departure from what you people see as normal today, where you are in CCC and you're supporting DDD. So the ADC is giving that ultimatum to tell you that our clarity in focus is apt. And so we want a departure from that nonsense.
No, on the other narrative, you don't think that that's an indication of lack of trust in the ADC as a formidable platform and vehicle to drive the interest of its members ahead of the 2027 election?
No, it is not. It is merely to conform with the regulatory rules that govern elections, such that you must belong to a political party. So we want to shape our house right even before the time. That is the reason. It's not because of lack of trust. We came as a coalition. A coalition is different from a merger. And so the factors that govern a coalition must have a variance from what a perfect merger will be. And so at a certain point, at different junctions, we are to introduce what is essentially important for the coalition to become fused into the main goal, which we are targeting.
Okay, so now from your perspective, speaking still about what to expect for the elections, let me ask you, how prepared do you think INEC is? They are bringing these new technological advancements and the introduction of AI into the new system of how they are going to run things, including all these logistical demands. What is your perspective on what they are trying to do and on their level of preparedness?
Well, everything is on hope. But building from the remnants of what we know in the antecedents of operations of the Independent National Electoral Commission, it is not for anybody to speculate on the positive wrong. But there is a litmus test. They have just gotten a new chairman. Let us see how it will function. Because if INEC does not reform, then it means INEC itself will be the first victim of its malpractice. INEC has always been known to be malpractice. They aid the malpractice. They defend the malpractice. They propagate the malpractice. So if they do not sit up right this time around, Nigerians against the status quo they want to defend, then they will be the ones to answer for themselves.
Okay, let's look at the economy now. The ADC is accusing the federal government of toying and manipulating food inflation for political interests. How would you substantiate this claim in the face of some substantive improvement? The food inflation stands at 16% now, and it has recorded some steady growth.
Okay.
So could you expatiate
I will
more
take
on
it
this?
from two perspectives.
Okay.
One of them is when you say it is now 16%. That means trending downward, and therefore meaning favorable to Nigerians and the market forces.
I didn't suggest that.
Wait, I'm interpreting it from your statement.
No, the records are clear.
The records are saying that.
Some steady.
Okay, now
growth.
I'm interpreting the records. Interpreting the records in this perspective means that where was it before it rose to above 16%, that such that when it is coming to 16%, then we assume that it is favorable. That's the first question.
Okay.
Second, I take it on comparative perspectives. If you want to grow a local economy, how then do you go on mass importation of the same crops that you should be growing to encourage local economic growth? Unfortunately, whenever they introduce some kind of obnoxious expenditure, they call it economic growth and translate it to mean development. These are different, very different theories in management of a sovereign economy. And so we as ADC are perfectly correct because we understand the indices of economic management, and that is why we are revealing to you what you could see as positive action, that it is absolutely negative.
No, but in 2023 it was 27%.
Yes!
Which was higher.
You now get what I mean. In 2020,
that was the party, that was the government you served.
Yes.
Under the late Muhammadu Buhari.
The government
regime.
I served in 2023 came out in May. However, I wasn't there up to 2023.
I
but
know.
Nonetheless,
but that was the government you served under.
Yes. Nonetheless, in 2023, when you say it was how many percent?
27%.
27%. In what month? From MBS statistics.
Even as at June, I think that was 37%.
Okay, thank you. Now, it tells you something. The government, beyond May 29, 2023, started its inflationary trend on 29th May, on mere utterance of paucity of understanding. And so you should know that on daily basis, there are offsets within the government I said in Buhari's time, that some months it goes higher, some months it comes lesser. And that has to do with what I mentioned earlier. The indices of global governance in economic manipulations, whereby you know WTO has a role to play, and all the agencies of World Trade Organization have roles to play vis-a-vis the offsets of what is introduced in foreign exchange.
Okay, now, sorry, Yolanda, sorry, I must come in here, so apologies. I think let's look at the major economic drivers, the flotation of the Naira, and also the removal of fuel subsidy. What other option would your party have adopted being in the shoe of this current government?
Thank you very much. You see, when we talk of this, I mentioned something about classical theories earlier. And when you think that Adam Smith and the Keynesian economics of 1940 and so on,
I need a specific answer from you
yes,
because of our time.
Well, to get a specific answer needs analysis because you ask a question in context. So if I don't give you the analysis, which of course time will not allow me to, nonetheless, I tell you, flotation of the Naira. How do you float the Naira when you don't have a stable rate of exchange and you cannot monitor the tranches of introduction of forex into the system? Neither do you have adequate records about how much is expended in every sector of the economy. Then the other one you mentioned is removal of fuel subsidy. You remove fuel subsidy in the midst of what they say you are deregulating the petroleum sector so that you'll be able to get market forces competing. You do that without putting in place the raw materials to feed the refineries that should bring about competition in market forces. So it is all abstraction in this economy. These are abstract policies which can never manifest in anything good. And you're seeing the results, of course. I don't need to tell you that you're hungry. Are you not hungry?
So looking ahead, you've spoken about the abstractness of it all. What economic policies do you believe will drive Nigeria's development?
Again, to answer that, we will take sector by sector. From education
just
to
a general overview from
well,
what
a general
is most
overview is to be
view.
responsive as the issues of offset come, to be able to understand the system so that in proactive terms, you will always prepare for the kind of upheavals that will upset your systems. That is the way I can give you a general view.
Okay. Mr. Usani Uguru, the former Minister of Niger Delta Affairs and also the National Vice Chairman South-South of the African Democratic Congress. Thank you for making our time to join us live on Daybreak on Arise News. Thank you very much.